high. So today, we are going to look at what is the real power in relationships. Okay? So, relationships, what is the thing that drives all relationships? I'm going to be looking at one word, okay? And that one word is attention. I hope I have spelt that correctly. Anyway, attention. So today we're going to be looking at how attention drives your relationships and the power that it has. Now, when I talk about relationships, people might immediately think like being in love or something like that. And it includes that, but not just that, okay? Relationships is just literally the dynamic between you and anything else you interact with, okay? So we can break this down quickly, okay? First of all, we have A, okay? That's you, that is, okay? You, right? And then over here, we have B, okay? So B is anything else, okay? So you can roughly loosely categorize these things, right, into two sort of broad categories, the internal and the external, right? So I'll do a little line here. So internal might be, for example, things like if you educate yourself, okay? So if we keep the internal over here, education, educate, okay? That's an internal relationship with yourself, you know, learning, so on and so forth, right? Exercise would be an internal process, okay? Because even though it's something you do outside, it's developing you. So it's an internal relationship, okay? You have also things like food, right? Food is a relationship, okay? That it's external thing, but it's a relationship you have, right? Things like distractions, okay? We have a relationship with distractions. Those could be, for example, alcohol, drugs, TV, our phones, so on and so forth, right? Internal relationships, okay? So this is basically us having a relationship with something that we manage. This dynamic, by the way, so if A is us and B is everything that we have relationships with, we have this energy here, okay? This interplay, and that is C. So this, you might have heard me say this before, the ABC aspect of relationships. A is us, B is anything we interact with, and C is the energy in between, okay? And that is governed by the attention that we give it, okay? And then we have external categories, okay? So external categories might be, for example, your family, okay? Things like, you know, people that are basically kind of emotionally dependent on you. You know, they could be siblings, they could be children, they could be parents. And then we have like a sort of more peripheral aspect of other people, like friends, yeah? Now, I don't keep a strict definition on this, okay? I think that you can actually have a friend who basically, you know, becomes like emotionally dependent on you. They can end up being classed as family, right? You know, we know of friends like this, like, you know, our ride or dies and stuff like that. Then we have things like relationships, like our intimate relationships. So I'll put intimate in here, intimate. Like, honestly, writing sideways when you're dyslexic is hilarious. This is so hard. It's like, wow. Okay, so we have like this stuff, but we also have other things. What would be an external factor? Okay, something like our job, our work. Okay, right? That's something that our relationship with has. These are things that basically they have an effect on other things. So this internal stuff has an effect on ourselves, and these have an effect on other things. That's why I separate them into internal and external. Okay? Generally, these things here will affect us. Generally, these things here will affect other people. So the nature of the relationship that we have, okay, might affect us or might affect them, right? Obviously, there are other things in these categories. These are just examples, okay? So, what we have here is us, okay, and then everything else, right? And then the dynamic that we give, okay, or get, okay? And that is going to be governed by attention, okay? So what we're basically looking at here is the quality and the depth and like all of that sort of stuff in terms of like how these things are affected are governed by the level and amount of attention that we give these things, okay? So if you're looking to be educated in something, you know, like you want to learn something, you have to figure out how to give it enough attention for you to develop. If you're exercising and you want to become fitter and stronger, you have to figure out how to give it enough attention in order for these things to happen, okay? With food, we actually don't want to give too much attention to food, but we need to give enough attention to food. And this is the thing, there's types of attention, isn't there? Like, we want to pay enough attention to our food that is healthy, right, and gets us what we want. But we don't want to give so much attention to our food that it dominates us and basically rules our day, because that's too much attention, okay? And then obviously we've got distractions. Distractions generally are given too much attention, full stop, right? But there's nothing wrong sometimes with giving your attention to a distraction, because that distraction might actually cause a positive effect, okay? You know, like stress release or development or like exposure to something new. It's not that distractions are bad, it's just that we don't govern our attention properly, okay? And then with things like this, family, do we give enough attention? Friends, do we give enough attention? Do we get enough attention? Do we give the right kind of attention? Same thing with our intimate partners. Do we give them the attention that they actually want? And this is the funny thing, because like, especially with intimacy, people basically kind of say that attention is almost cringe and that you've got to be cool and so on and so forth. So forth, right? And then people are basically like attention starved and don't know where they're at and then feel devalued. So there's a whole minefield here, right? And with work is something that if you work for someone else, they're probably going to ask for more attention than you want to give them a lot of the time. But if you find something that you're really into, you'll give it lots of attention and it will pay dividends in many ways. So as you can see, like how you govern your attention is enormous and basically dictates your relationships with everything, okay? So let's now look at how that attention might look, okay? So if we're here in the middle, okay, there's us, A, right? We'll have like basically attention going out, yeah? And this attention will have categories, won't it? Okay? So we'll have like things out here, things out here, things out here, things out here. Okay? So these things could be any of these things, right? And obviously more of them, right? Now, one of the things that can happen typically, right, is that your day and your time will be split up with your attention. You know, work might dominate this bit of your attention, you know, family might dominate this bit of your attention, intimacy might dominate this bit of your attention, you know, and this bit of attention here might be dominated by development in yourself, you know. I'll put D, but D could mean distraction, development, you know, anything, right? Let's say yourself. Now, with all of these things, you're only going to be able to focus really on one at a time, okay? That's just the brutal honesty of it. Most people, what they end up doing is that they might put a little bit of attention here, a little bit of attention here, and it splits the attention, right? The thing is, attention really, with any of these things, if you can figure out how to make this solely your attention at the right time, okay? So the right time would be, say like you're at work, okay? Then this will move closer to here, won't it? Okay? This is now dominating your time, right? So if you're at work, and you can't do these other things, then really giving these things attention kind of like doesn't really do anything for you. So what you want to do is practice and learn how to take your attention and give it to the thing that is right in your time right now. Okay? So you take all of this attention and you focus it. Okay? Now, when this then goes back again, okay, right, you then bring something else into focus. You want to stop giving that your attention. The problem is people will have this here, they'll give it all their attention. When it moves away, they are still giving it attention when it's out here, okay, when it's outside, right? This doesn't help. Giving something your attention when it's outside of your ability to influence it is very draining and doesn't do anything helpful, okay? So what we want to do is something that comes into our peripheral, especially things like family and intimacy, right? When these things swing in, we don't want to be focusing on something that's out here. We want to be focusing on the things that are in here, okay? Especially with things like children, okay? Because they can't regulate like we can regulate. Children just cannot regulate themselves, okay? So if there is time when your children are in front of you, give them every bit of attention, okay? Every bit of attention, all of it. Forget all of this other stuff unless it's combined, right? And combined in a good way, okay? So then we have obviously things like over here, like our development, our self, and our distractions, and so on and so forth. And some of that attention is going to be helpful, right? So like when we exercise, that is helpful attention, okay? It makes us fitter, stronger, and healthier. But if we then stray too much into distraction, we are not going to develop from that. Okay? So we have to manage our stuff, okay? We have to manage our attention. So what we want to look at here as well then is something else, right? And that is attention thieves, okay? So I'm going to put a T here for the attention thief, okay? So attention thieves are things that take your attention, okay? They demand your attention. But they don't give you anything, right? So what's one of the easiest and best examples? Your mobile phone. How many people, right, have, say for example, their family are in here, right? Their family have moved into their current thing. And I see this all the time. And I see it with intimacy as well. People are with their intimate partners, people are with their family, right? People are with their friends, right? But they are giving their attention over here. So this attention here is split, okay? And some of that attention, this little monster here is going da 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 da. I'm now going to sit here, okay? When this is in your sphere of influence, okay? That is just bad. If you take your distractions, your attention thieves, and let them come in here, okay? It's bad. It's just bad, okay? You should only allow your attention thieves to come in, okay, when you haven't got these other things. Like, honestly, it's so much healthier to focus and cultivate your attention, okay? When these things move into your sphere of influence, i.e. you can interact with them, is what I mean, right? Be disciplined, okay? You have to be disciplined. And so we have two things here, two values, right? We have discipline, okay? Discipline. Oh my God. And we have another one, restraint, okay? Oh my God, it's too hard to write. Restraint. Okay, so discipline is making sure that you are giving attention to the things that you know you should be giving them to, even if you don't want to. So, for example, giving attention to education and giving attention to exercise. Okay? Discipline. Making sure that you're giving attention to these things, even if at the time they might not be fulfilling you or they might not be gratifying you at that moment. However, we know education, we know exercise is going to pay off. It is going to give us a positive result. So do your developmental reading, do your developmental like looking into stuff and interactions and stuff like that. Do your exercise. Have the discipline. When you don't feel like it, do it. Give it that attention, because that attention will be paid back in positive results in the future. Okay? Restraint, that does say restraint, even though it's written, my writing is awful. Okay, restraint is the other side, not doing the things that you want to do. And that is almost going to revolve around things like not giving attention to food, okay, and not giving attention to distractions when you shouldn't. So having the discipline, okay, to do these things, right, and having the restraint to not do things like, oh, I'm with my family, I'm going to look at my phone. No, don't do it. Do not split your attention, and do not give your attention to attention thieves, okay? Attention thieves are okay if none of this stuff is in effect. You know, if you've got like a bit of time off and you just want to distract yourself, you just want to unwind, that's fine, okay? But do not allow your attention to be split when there are far more important things you are interacting with at that moment, okay? This is so important. Attention drives the power of all of this stuff, okay? And far too much of our attention is being stolen, okay, by these attention thieves. Things like pointless programs on TV, like mobile phone screen, just like when you haven't got any direction. No, I'm not against like watching TV shows and movies and stuff like that. But I would rather like these things actually be combined properly with interactions like socially, right? Because then that way you can actually share the experience with someone rather than just using it as a distraction to pass the time. Don't do that, right? Make sure these attention thieves are being applied with restraint so that you're not affecting these other things and the relationships you have with all of these other things, okay? So, now there's a couple of little sort of extra bits of attention, okay? So attention anxiety is an interesting one, okay? Attention anxiety is when basically you get attention. Now there's two really good examples of this, right? When you get attention and you don't know what to do with it. So this is just like bonus mindset stuff, right? So say for example, someone you find really attractive gives you attention. That can make a lot of people feel really weird, right? They get a huge amount of attention anxiety. Another great example of this, right, is if you have to do, say, public speaking, or even like this, where you're making a video that you know other people are going to look at, or basically eyes are going to be on you, okay? Someone else's attention is on you, right? It can generate a huge amount of attention anxiety. You're like, hang on a minute, people are looking at me and I've noticed, right? So one of the things with this is people don't know what to do, whether it's like someone they find attractive giving them attention, or, you know, like just a group of people giving them attention. They're like, what do I do? What do I do? And they feel like they have to perform. Actually, the easiest thing to do with that is if you're getting attention, just give attention back. That's all you have to do. Just pay attention, right? See what is happening. Pay attention. That's what attention is. Attention is not like closing off. You know, it's not like being, oh my God, what do I need to do? If someone gives you attention, give them attention back. This is reciprocation, okay, of attention. And it's a really good thing. It's a really good thing to realize that if you have attention coming your way, give attention back. So it's part of that whole thing of like social calibration. A big part of attention is social calibration, okay? So I'll give an example. You're walking down the street and a stranger is coming the other way. You give them a small amount of attention, right? Because they're maybe not giving you any, or they may give you a small amount. And you give them a small amount of attention, and you both say hi, right? And then that's it. That is a pleasant social encounter that might make you feel a little bit better, might make them feel a little bit better. And it was something that was socially calibrated through the amount of attention given and received, okay? The reciprocation. If you say like that person's walking down the street and they don't look at you, you sort of look at them to see if they want to say hi or not, and they don't look at you. Okay, cool. They maybe are not in the place to give you any attention, so you just withdraw your attention and that's it. That's okay. If, however, you start to give them lots of attention. They're not giving you any attention, and so you start staring at them like that as they pass. That is not calibrated attention, okay? So one of the things here is like matching the attention levels that you're getting is a really good way, okay, to sort of become socially calibrated. A lot of people struggle with this stuff. They don't know where to start. And that's a really good start. Just take it, if someone gives you just a surface amount of attention, give them a surface amount of attention back. Don't overdo it, but at the same time also don't ignore it. This is another aspect that we're moving into now, and that's called bids for attention. Okay? Now, bid for attention is a huge component of relationships and attention at all levels of social interaction. Okay? So, the previous example where two strangers are walking past each other in the street and one looks at the other, okay? That is what's known as a bid for attention. Okay? Another type of bid for attention, and this one is a bit more difficult for people to deal with, right, is a homeless person sat in the street asking for like money or help or food. That is a bid for attention. And most people will turn that bid for attention down, okay? They will ignore the homeless person, okay? So bid for attentions are basically things that are very, very, very important, not just for the person asking for attention, but for us as well. There's research in attachment science that demonstrates that when we close off our bids for attention, as in someone bids for our attention and we turn it down, we basically decrease potentially our ability to be compassionate, okay? Because compassion and bids for attention are linked, okay? So what we have to do is when people give us a bid for attention, we don't have to answer it with action. You know, like, so say like the homeless person asks for money and we don't have any money, or we're not willing to give them money. We don't have to give them money, but we can answer the bid for attention with just a little bit of attention back, like, sorry, I don't have any. That answers their bid for attention with just enough compassion to register as a human being. This doesn't just potentially make them feel a little bit better or not feel negative because they're being ignored again, but it actually registers with you. This stuff here all becomes habit. And every time you close off your attention, especially to another human being, that can become a habit. So then in actual relationships where you're like, you're in a relationship with your family, your children, your friends, your intimate partners, when they have a bid for attention, like, for example, they say, oh wow, the sky's really lovely today. That's a bid for attention, right? If you go, oh yeah, cool, the clouds do look amazing, you have reciprocated the bid for attention and everything is groovy. But if you dismiss the bid for attention from someone you are socially linked to, that is a very negative thing. And it's way more powerful than people realise. Way more powerful. So you have to be careful with bids for attention. You don't have to like give your heart and your house and the shirt off your back to someone just because they say hi. I don't mean that. But what I mean is reciprocate the attention, okay? When there's a bid for attention, answer it. You don't have to give anything else, just a little bit of attention back, okay? All of this stuff is to do with social calibration, social skills, and all of that sort of stuff, okay? So it's really, really important. Basically, when, like, a lot of kids struggle now because their parents, okay, are giving their attention to attention thieves. And these children are giving bids for attention so much. They're kicking, they're screaming, they're crying, they're like doing things that are almost driving the parents to distraction. But all of this could be resolved if the attention given was attention that was like whole and not fragmented and given to attention thieves. Okay? So bid for attentions, reciprocate them at an appropriate level. Okay? You'll find that your social calibration will go up, your relationships will improve, and you'll feel better about yourself in general. Okay? Because attention is how we connect with everything. Okay? Connection is key. Okay? So, now let's go on a little bit on what I would call negative attention. Okay? So we control our attention. So I've talked about attention anxiety, I've talked about bids for attention and social calibration. Now we have negative attention. Negative attention is basically when you deliberately give your attention to something that is actually just going to make you feel worse. So it's not an attention thief, it's not like, random stuff. Now, a really good example of this, okay, I'll give you It's quite a specific example, but it demonstrates what I mean. Strongman competitions, okay? Don't worry, I'm going somewhere with this, right? It's real common that people will put up a list of competitors' names, right? If they enter the competition, right? And they'll go, oh, I'm in a strongman competition, and they look at the list of competitors. And then what they do is they start stalking all of the people that they see on the competitors list. They start putting their name into social media, they start spying on their training regimes, and basically what they start doing is generating a huge amount of anxiety in themselves, because they think that by giving that attention to these people that they have no control over, right, and it has no impact on them other than now generating the anxiety of, oh my God, that person looks like an absolute monster, oh my God, that person looks better than me, oh my God, I'm so out of my depth. You cannot control what those other people are or do. If you're entering a competition, the only thing you can really control is your own effort, okay? And that effort can be split up in many ways. If you're putting attention into things that you cannot control, right, and generating anxiety, that is very negative attention, okay? It's not having a positive effect on you, it's only a negative effect. With that sort of thing, you imagine how much better you would be if you took that attention, that time, that effort that you're putting into something you can't even interact with, and you put it into yourself, okay? And you thought, you know what, I'm going to do my best. If you do your absolute best and you come last place in the competition, you can still be happy because you gave your best. And if that best is you exceeding any previous performance, you have grown and developed. That's only a reason to be happy, right? So that negative attention can really take away focus from yourself and good development, right? Another example of negative attention, and this is probably something that's a bit more relatable to like everyone, is, say for example you have an ex, right? And maybe that ex didn't, the relationship didn't end in a good way. And so now you decide to give attention to your ex. And then you're like, while you're spying on them, you see that they might start going out with someone else. And you start giving attention to the person they're now going out with. Where is any of that attention going to go? What do you expect that attention is going to pay back in terms of dividends? Yeah, it may be tempting to see what's going on and be nosy, but that's pure gossip behaviour, which doesn't benefit anyone, especially you. That negative attention doesn't do you any good whatsoever, okay? You would be so much better taking that attention, just saying, no, I'm not going to look. Exercising restraint, right? That does say restraint. Exercising restraint, not putting your attention into something that basically isn't going to give you any positive attention back, or any development, or anything good, and having the discipline to apply that attention into other things. For example, your own development, or your own family, or your own intimate relationships. Putting negative attention out into the world, like basically spying on people you hate, is so stupid. It's so silly. Like really? What are you looking for? I mean, I don't know, but just basically exercise some restraint, yeah? Don't put negative attention out into the world. It doesn't do any good to anyone. Have some discipline. Think about where your attention's going and then start focusing it. So when these things are in your sphere of influence, your ability to interact, give it everything, right? But then when that thing withdraws, something else comes in, focus on that instead, okay? So attention, right? This is the power. This is the thing that drives the effects of all of your relationships. Your relationships with yourself and your relationships with everything outside of yourself, okay? So give your attention appropriately, reciprocate attention. When bids for attention come your way, just answer them at appropriate level. You don't have to do anything else, and so on and so forth. And generally, all of this stuff will start to work out, especially if you spend good attention on development and you spend good attention on like the things that you can interact with. You will find that your life just becomes better, okay? Because when you put attention on yourself as well, your value goes up, and then people want to give you more attention because you are just basically a better person to be around. You'll be happier, you'll be more helpful, and like, I know there are people that say that all human beings have value. It's like, yeah, but that value doesn't have to be positive, right? It could be negative value and so on and so forth. But if we put attention on good stuff, and we're the sort of person who answers bids for attention, and we're pleasant to be around, and we're helpful to be around, and all that sort of stuff, our life will just improve. So attention in our relationships governs our quality of life enormously. Okay? So, exercise discipline on the things that you should be doing. Exercise restraint on negative attention and attention thieves. Okay? And see what happens. Attention. It's the big one. I hope that helps. Have a good day.